The text came through as I was confirming dinner reservations for the holidays. Sweetheart, your dad and I think it's best if you skip Thanksgiving this year. We're keeping it small with Lucas and his family. You understand, right? I stared at my phone, a hollow laugh slipping out. Of course they wanted me to skip. Again. Lucas, my golden older brother, with his corporate job, picture-perfect wife, and their Instagram-ready kids, always came first. My name is Danielle, and at 37, I've learned what it feels like to be invisible in my own family. Every time Lucas landed a promotion, it was champagne and speeches. When I launched my own architecture firm last spring, Mom's response was, "That's nice, dear. Did you hear Lucas might be buying a second home?" "Oh, sure, Mom. Have your quiet celebration." I typed the words with calm fingers while the ache in my chest burned. What they didn't know was this message sealed my decision about the surprise I'd been planning. 4 months ago, I closed on a sprawling oceanfront estate in Maui, a dream property I'd worked years to afford. I didn't breathe a word to my parents. Why would I? They'd have found a way to make it about Lucas anyway. But my extended family? They've always seen me. Aunt Rosa, who mailed me care packages in college when Mom forgot my exams. Uncle Frank, who flew across the country for my firm's grand opening because someone should cheer for you. Cousins who text me after every magazine feature, proud and loud. They knew about the contracts, the design awards, the hard nights I'd fought through. So when I offered to host Thanksgiving in Maui, they didn't hesitate. I opened our group chat, my screen lighting up with joy. Aunt Rosa, just booked the flights. Uncle Frank, counting down the days, got the fishing trip lined up. Cousin Mia, cooking class on the beach? Yes, please. 25 people confirmed. Aunts, uncles, cousins, their kids, all ready for sunsets, luau's, and a feast blending Hawaiian flavors with traditional turkey and pie. Everyone, except my parents and Lucas. I smiled and glanced at the itinerary. Private catamaran cruise, farm-to-table dinners, island tours, and the grand Thanksgiving banquet by the ocean. While they carve their quiet turkey back home, I'll raise a glass on the shore, with the people who always believed in me. My phone buzzed again. "Danielle, maybe you can join us for Christmas instead if Lucas's schedule permits." I nearly laughed out loud. Always conditional, always orbiting around Lucas and his perfect little universe. I didn't bother replying. Instead, I turned my attention to the final touches. The Maui estate staff had everything under control, but I wanted this week to be flawless. The suites were assigned, menus approved, activities booked. I'd even arranged for a photographer to capture every moment of our celebration. Because this was going to be a Thanksgiving no one would forget. A week before the holiday, Mom called. "Danielle, honey, I hope you're not too upset about Thursday. It's just Lucas's kids have been so cranky, and you know how your father hates chaos." "Don't worry about me, Mom," I replied, watching the Pacific sunset from my infinity pool. "Oh, do you have plans with friends?" The surprise in her voice was almost funny, like it never occurred to her that I might have a life beyond their approval. "Something like that," I said lightly. "Actually, I need to run arrangements to finalize." "Arrangements? Danielle, you're not working through Thanksgiving, are you? You know how we feel about." "Goodbye, Mom. Give my love to Lucas and the kids." As I ended the call, Aunt Rosa's car pulled into the circular drive. She and Uncle Frank had flown in early to help with the finishing touches. Watching them marvel at the property's ocean views, warmth bloomed in my chest. "This is unbelievable," Aunt Rosa said, hugging me tight. "Your parents have no idea what they're missing, sweetheart." "They're about to," I said, smiling. Uncle Frank chuckled. "Their loss is our gain. Can't wait to see their faces when these photos hit the family chat." "Neither can I admitted. Over the next few days, the estate filled with laughter. Cousins, uncles, aunts, their kids. Every room alive with love and joy. This, I realized, was what family should feel like. The night before Thanksgiving, we gathered on the terrace for a welcome dinner. I lifted my glass to the people who had always shown up. "To family," I said. 25 glasses clinked under the Hawaiian stars. Tomorrow would be unforgettable. not just for us, but for the ones who had chosen to exclude me. Little did they know, their quiet Thanksgiving was about to get loud when they saw what they'd missed. Thanksgiving morning on the shoreline was everything I had imagined, and so much more. The scent of roasted turkey mingled with the fragrance of island spices drifting in from the open-air kitchen. Our private chef effortlessly blended Hawaiian flavors with American tradition. Outside, children's laughter floated on the ocean breeze as my younger cousins raced along the stone paths lined with palms. My phone buzzed, a text from Lucas. "Happy Thanksgiving. Mom asked me to check if you're doing okay by yourself. We can FaceTime later if you're lonely." I glanced around the vibrant scene. Aunt Rosa and Cousin Mia, arranging tropical flowers on the terrace, their conversation punctuated by laughter. Uncle Frank was out by the pool, teaching the teenagers how to paddleboard. Others wandered the gardens or helped prep for the luau-themed dinner. Lonely? I hadn't felt this alive in years. "Thanks, but I'm a little busy. Enjoy your quiet celebration," I typed back, adding a cheerful emoji for effect. By mid-morning, the photographer I'd hired arrived, camera clicking as he captured candid moments of pure joy. Cousins sipping Mai Tais under the palm trees, kids splashing in the infinity pool, uncles debating fishing routes while the chef plated Kona lobster next to a perfectly golden turkey. "These photos are cover-worthy," he said, showing me a few early shots. The light, the setting, absolute magic. Just as I settled onto a lounge chair, overlooking the Pacific, my phone rang. "Mom." "Danielle, sweetheart, are you sure you don't want to join us later for dessert? Lucas's wife made her famous pumpkin pie." I walked to the edge of the terrace, watching Uncle Frank teach my youngest cousin to crack a coconut. "Actually, Mom, I'm hosting lunch right now. Can I call you back?" "Hosting," she repeated slowly. Where are you exactly?" "Maui," I said simply. "Oceanfront estate. Closed on it a few months ago." The silence on the line stretched like a rubber band ready to snap. "You bought a house? In Hawaii?" Her voice pitched higher. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Why would I? You've made it clear my life doesn't matter as much as Lucas's. I didn't want to disrupt your peaceful plans." Another pause, sharper this time. Who are you hosting?" "Oh, just family," I said lightly. "Aunt Rosa and Uncle Frank, the cousins, their kids. 25 of us, actually." I ended the call and raised my glass toward the laughter around me. The people who always showed up. The ones who never made me feel like an afterthought. Tomorrow, when the photos hit the family chat, Mom and Dad will finally see what they chose to miss. If you want to see what happens when my parents discover the photos and the message I send next, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for part 2. You won't want to miss their reaction. Everyone except you, Dad and Lucas. I paused for effect, letting my words sink in. Actually, they've been here all week. We'd done snorkeling tours, farm-to-table cooking classes, and even a sunset cruise along the coast. It had been magical. I could almost hear Mom's mind spinning on the other end, counting every family member who had chosen my celebration over theirs. "A week?" she sputtered. But they always come to our house for Thanksgiving." "Things change, Mom. Sometimes people want to be where they feel welcome." "That's not fair, Danielle. We just wanted a quiet—" "I need to go," I interrupted. "The photographer wants to get some group shots before lunch, and Chef Lonnie is plating the first course." I ended the call and turned to find Aunt Rosa leaning against the doorway, a knowing smile lighting her face. "Let me guess," she said, pulling me into a hug. "Catherine finally figured out what she's missing." "She did?" I said with a grin. "Good," Aunt Rosa said firmly. "Maybe next time they'll think twice before shutting you out." The rest of the afternoon unfolded like a dream. Chef Lonnie had created a feast that blended tradition with island elegance. Perfectly roasted turkey with macadamia stuffing, cranberry lilikoi sauce, and sides infused with tropical flavors. The wine flowed, laughter rang out, and the photographer captured every moment. Cousins cracking jokes, kids weaving flower crowns, uncles debating which beach had the best surf. As the sun began to melt into the horizon, painting the ocean in shades of golden rose, we gathered around the long table on the terrace. I raised my glass, gratitude swelling in my chest. Not for being excluded, but for the clarity it gave me about what true family means. My phone buzzed again and again. Texts from Lucas, missed calls from Mom, even one from Dad. I ignored them all. Instead, I savored the sound of clinking glasses, the warmth of arms around shoulders, the stories flowing as freely as the wine. Looking around at the faces glowing in the twilight, I knew this wasn't a one-time event. This was the start of a tradition that felt right. Later that night, I checked my phone. Among the notifications was an Instagram request from Lucas's wife, something she'd never done before. I smiled. Tomorrow, when the photos went live and everyone saw what they missed, they'd realize what their quiet Thanksgiving had cost. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, I was exactly where I belonged, with family who chose to show up. The morning after Thanksgiving, I woke to the sound of waves and laughter drifting through the garden. From my balcony, I spotted cousins lingering over a tropical breakfast on the terrace, while the kids chased each other near the infinity pool. My phone was a storm of notifications. The photographer had delivered the first batch of photos overnight, and just as planned, everyone had begun sharing them on social media. The shots were breathtaking. Our sunset feast on the terrace, cousins clinking glasses under a sky of fire and gold, children weaving flower lays beside the palms, and tables draped in island blooms against the endless blue of the Pacific. Aunt Rosa had posted an album titled A Thanksgiving to Remember, captioned, "When one door closes, another opens in paradise." Thank you, Danielle, for showing us what family really feels like. The likes and comments poured in, many from my parents' circle, country club friends, old neighbors, even Mom's church group, all gushing about how incredible everything looked, asking why Catherine and Robert weren't there, wondering about the oceanfront estate. Lucas called first. His voice was tight, with a mix of anger and disbelief. "Why didn't you tell me? A house in Hawaii? The whole family there?" "Tell you?" I said calmly, watching the sunlight dance across the water. "Like you tell me about your parties, the summer barbecue, the kids' birthdays. That's different." "No, Lucas, it's not. You, Mom, and Dad built your little circle, and that's fine. I built something better." I heard one of the kids crying in the background before his voice dropped to a whisper. "Mom's losing it. All her friends are asking questions. The Hendersons even canceled Christmas dinner to take your New Year's invite." I smiled. I hadn't even announced New Year's yet, but apparently word had spread. "Well," I said, "I guess Mom got the quiet holiday she wanted. How was it?" Silence. Then, grudgingly, "Boring. Dad fell asleep during football, the kids were cranky, and Mom kept checking her phone after your call." "It wasn't like Thanksgiving should be," I said softly. "No," he admitted. After hanging up, I joined the family on the terrace. Uncle Frank was organizing a whale-watching trip, Aunt Rosa and Mia were planning a farmer's market run, and someone suggested a sunset picnic on the beach. Then my phone rang again. "Dad." "Princess," he began, his voice carefully measured, the same tone he'd used when trying to talk me out of my dreams years ago. "Your mother and I have been talking." "Dad, I'm actually heading out for a boat tour with the family. Can this wait?" "That's what we want to discuss," he said, voice low and controlled. "Unity, your mother is very upset about all this." I glanced toward the terrace, where the people who truly showed up for me were laughing and packing sunscreen for the whale-watching trip. "I'm sure she is, Dad," I said evenly. "But you know what? I was upset too. Every time you left me out. Every time my achievements were brushed aside. Every time Lucas's needs came first." Silence. I pressed on. "The difference is, I did something positive with that feeling. But buying a house in Hawaii? Hosting Thanksgiving without telling us? Like the holidays you planned without telling me." My voice sharpened. "Doesn't feel good, does it?" A long pause. Finally, he exhaled. "No, it doesn't." "Enjoy your quiet weekend, Dad," I said softly. "I have to go. Uncle Frank's waiting." I hung up and turned back to the group. Over the next few days, everything blurred into pure joy. Snorkeling with sea turtles, wine tasting at a lush vineyard in upcountry Maui, sunset dinners at private beach tables. Our photographer captured every candid laugh, every clink of glasses. Those photos hit social media like wildfire. Cousins surfing at dawn, uncles roasting fresh mahi-mahi on the grill, kids in flower crowns running across the sand. The comments poured in from my parents' friends. What a dream! Why weren't you there? Meanwhile, Mom and Dad were fielding calls from their country club circle, all buzzing about the Thanksgiving they'd missed, and the daughter they clearly underestimated. A week later, as the last cars pulled out of the driveway, Aunt Rosa hugged me tight. They'll try to invite themselves for Christmas, she said knowingly. I know, I said with a grin, but Christmas is already planned. Her brows shot up. Danielle, I'm taking everyone to my chalet in the Swiss Alps. You have a chalet too? Bought it last spring. I winked. Time for a new holiday tradition, don't you think? After the last goodbye, I stood on the terrace, the Pacific shimmering like molten gold under the setting sun. My phone buzzed. Honey, about Christmas. Your father and I have been thinking. I left it unread. Let them think. Let them wonder. Let them finally feel what it's like to be on the outside looking in. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or cruel. It's creating something so beautiful that those who excluded you can only watch and regret. As the waves rolled in and I opened my laptop to plan Christmas in Switzerland, I smiled. I'd never spend another holiday feeling unwanted again. I'd built my own traditions, with family who chose to show up in places that take their breath away. And that was worth more than any quiet dinner they could ever offer. If you've read my story this far, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt left out by the very people who were supposed to love and support you? Have you ever been treated like an afterthought while someone else got the spotlight? Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? I learned something powerful this Thanksgiving. Exclusion doesn't define you. How you rise from it does. For years I craved their approval. I wanted a seat at a table that was never meant for me. Then I realized I could build my own table. And not just a table, but an entire tradition filled with laughter, love, and people who show up because they choose to, not because they feel obligated. So here's my advice. Stop waiting for others to validate your worth. Don't let their neglect shrink your dreams. Use that pain as fuel. Create a life so full, so rich, so beautiful that those who underestimated you can only watch from the sidelines. Now it's your turn. What's one dream you'll start building today? Share it below. Let's inspire each other to create the lives we deserve.